Good evening, folks. This is probably the only Sunliner in existence, or at least that's how I feel. It has a very unique drivetrain in it. There is the PCM 4140 Mitsubishi 4-cylinder engine and the Velvet Drive 1500 series automatic transmission. And this guy is the PCM stern drive. So PCM, or Pleasurecraft Marine, was only made... well, they still exist, but they were only making out drives for about 3 years, from 87 to 89. And I don't think there's too many of these guys left. It's kind of a small light-duty unit, at least on this vehicle, because it's a Mitsubishi 4-cylinder engine. Doesn't make a ton of power. So this is probably the lightest duty stern drive they made. It's in really good shape. There's no problems with the stern drive, but I have to remove it because I think there's some growling in the U-joints or gimbal bearing, so I need to take that apart and figure out what's going on with it. This is my first attempt into this. I'm not a boat guy, but I am a car guy and I know how to turn wrenches, so I'll figure it out. The unit seems simple. In fact, this thing is only a power transfer device. There is... no shifting in here. There's no water pump in here. The only water pump is belt driven off of the engine, and it sucks water through these lower vented ports and then sucks it in through this hose that I have off in here that comes out of the front of this stern drive underneath the head. And that bellowed hose, by the way, I need that bellowed hose if anybody knows how I can find one. They don't seem to make that anywhere. But that bellowed hose runs up inside the boat and goes to that belt-driven water pump. So this outdrive doesn't do anything except for transfer power. And that means it's actually really simple to take off. So I looked at a bunch of videos on how to do that, and there are none. There's no information out here at all about PCM outdrives. So I thought, I'll just figure it out, and then I'll build a video and tell you how I did it. So this is how I did it. The only thing holding this thing in is the trim struts and these two pins, one on each side right here. These metal pins are held in with one little Allen drive screw, and the inside of that pin is 1/4 threads, and you could thread in a bolt or a puller of some sort, like a slide hammer. I brought my slide hammer to do this job, but to be honest, they really come out easy. They're not threaded in, they're just pressed in. I'll show you the pin. This is the pin. The threads don't go all the way through. It's only about 1.25 inches, 1.5 long, and got that 1/4 thread inside for pulling the pin out. The pin is kind of a loose fit. It's not super tight, which kind of surprised me. I did find out that the closest relative to this stern drive is the light-duty Volvo unit. So if you're trying to figure out how to make this thing work or do some research about how to rebuild it or something, the Volvo is the closest cousin. It's nothing like the Mercruiser or the bigger Volvos. It would have to be some sort of a really light-duty Volvo to be similar to this. I don't know if this was a copy or a rip-off or a clone of the Volvo stern drive, but definitely Volvo was the closest thing to this thing's design. I looked, there is like no information about this. I did find one book called Inboard Outboard that has a small section on Pleasurecraft, so I ordered that, and we'll see what that has to say. But I went ahead and started the job without it. I'm taking this thing apart because it's got a growl when I start the engine up, a light-duty growl, and I noticed that growl is not nearly as bad when the stern drive is trimmed down and centered, but if I trim it up or I turn it side to side, the growl increases, which tells me it has something to do with either that H joint that's inside there, like a U joint, or possibly a gimbal bearing that's inside there. I don't know. I haven't taken it off yet. I've got this thing ready to come out right now. The only thing holding in is one pin. I've already got the other pin out and everything came apart. So I'm going to show you the steps I took to do it, and the tools that you're going to need. Let's start with that. So let's see. First thing I did was I took that Phillips head screwdriver and I took off this little ground cable that was attached to the stern drive right there. So that cable is probably to prevent corrosion, is my guess. So anyway, I took that off. A Phillips head screwdriver, nothing special. Next up, I took the prop off. That is held on by an Allen drive bolt, and it was a 1/4 inch Allen head. In fact, everything on this thing, on this boat, appears to be pretty much SAE, except maybe some stuff on the engine that's probably metric, but most everything, even the engine, was mostly SAE stuff. I wasn't sure how to get the prop off. It doesn't look like anything I found online, so I'll start by showing you. This is what it looks like in its glory. It is a straight spline shaft, and the prop kind of gets stuck on those splines and has to be pulled off with a little bit of force. Some gentle taps with a dead blow hammer did not cut it. Some gentle prying did not cut it. It needed to be pulled. And credit to somebody else on YouTube who was pulling off a prop using, the guy was using a big 3-jaw puller and wrapped the jaws around some rope, and I thought, well, that's a pretty cool idea. Let me try something like that. And I ended up using some rope, probably about a 1/4 inch thick black nylon rope, and I kind of wrapped it all over the blades, like around